Welcome to North Penn Television, Superintendent Spotlight. My name is Ken Weir, and we're speaking to you today from the North Penn High School television studio. Superintendent Spotlight features Superintendent Thomas Persing. Dr. Persing has been our superintendent since January, and it is his responsibility to guide us through the interim months while the school district seeks a new superintendent. Dr. Persing, this is your first television show at North Penn. Welcome to North Penn Studio.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your plate has been filled with all sorts of challenges during your time here, and we know that you've become immediately engaged in all of the many decisions that need to be made, and that you've been assisting the board in gathering information and in gathering all the documentation so that the board is able to come together and make the best possible decision for the community. I think the decision that's foremost in everybody's mind is the decision regarding the second high school. And the board is about to vote on a variety of options for the new high school. I think today we should begin by talking about the various options that are presently on the table. I think that we'll ask you to discuss the 5 options that will be on the school board agenda for its vote at its next meeting. And so you can walk us through those options as you choose.
Okay, I thank you very much. The first option I'd like to talk with you about is option A. Option A deals with the expansion of the high school, this current high school. Our current high school has a functional capacity of 2,710 students. Functional capacity is not the same as rated capacity. I won't bother to go into a detailed discussion on how we get to a functional capacity, but suffice it to say is that we can, if we're crowded to maximum, put 2,700 students in this building. It wouldn't be desirable, but we could do it. Option A then tells us that we could expand this high school to have a rated capacity of 3,400 students. We believe that if we put 10, 11, and 12 grade students here and expand it to 3,400, that would lead us out 5 or 10 more years utilizing only grades 10, 11, and 12. I hasten to say, though, that this is a K-12 school district, kindergarten through 12th grade. We need to make sure we address all of those needs. Those needs include, in my judgment, a new elementary school. So this elementary school is not featured in the costs of these projections. So I want that made crystal clear, that we have a K-12 school district, but we're addressing a 9-12 or a 10-12 problem.
I understand that in option A, as you describe it, a 14th elementary school would be required to meet all of our needs.
Anytime that we concentrate solely on a 10-12 enrollment pattern, a 7, 8, 9, and a K-6, that is correct. If we were to leave the 6th grade in the current enrollment pattern, rather than have a K-5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to 12, it's our judgment we will need a new elementary school if we stay with the present class sizes, and we do not add any more modulars onto the current 16 modulars that we now have. We currently do not have within our elementary school adequate numbers of classroom for art or music. They are being used for classrooms. And what is more, as we are utilizing, in my judgment, less than adequate facilities for other types of needs for our students.
I think traditionally our art and music classrooms have been our escape valve, if you will, and we've always been able to accommodate growth in the elementary schools by having art and music rooms which could be converted into regular classrooms. And we're rapidly running out of that option, and it's nearly gone, isn't it?
Yes, it is. To my understanding, we'll have in 95, 96, 1 art room and 1 music room available in the 13 elementary schools for utilization for that original purpose, art and music. The others, as we call it in a cliche, art on a cart, and music wherever you can find it. I need to say, though, Ken, that our needs in North Penn School District not only addressed art and music, but they need to address our special needs students.
Yes.
And we're growing in those needs, and I'm not quite sure we have the facilities that I'd like to see available for the special needs students, our special education programs.
Is option A the least expensive option in total dollars?
Yes, it is. Option A would be the least expensive. It would run at $30,012,733. That's our best estimate. People might chuckle when they see the fact that we round it, or actually don't round off any dollars. We take it right to the nearest dollar. The reason we need to do that is because we're using our architect's figures, and we think that that's the most prudent thing to do at this time. People should be quick to understand that the final cost figures will be predicated on the plans that the Board of School Directors agree to. That's crucial for people to understand. The Board of School Directors determines what the size and the quantity and quality of the building will be, both in terms of dollars and finances. It's the Board of School Directors who will take the recommendation from the superintendent and decide what type of curriculum will be available. So I think people should understand this, that there's a great deal of power, a great deal of authority that's vested in the Board of School Directors. And that's why, in my judgment, they should be elected to the board with a great deal of thought kept in mind.
Now, it's generally known in the community that a previous board did vote to move forward with its intent to build a second high school in Montgomery Township on the Keenest Road site, which is commonly known as the former Hall Farm. That vote was for a 10-12 high school, and that is the challenge now, whether the present high school would be expanded as you've described in option A, or option B is one of several additional options. You want to tell us a little bit more about option B?
Yes, I do, Ken. Option B is a 10 to 12 high school. It will have a rated capacity of 1,200 students with a core facilities for 1,600 students. A core facilities, for those viewers who are not familiar with it, means that we will have a cafeteria, auditorium, other facilities such as an instructional materials center, library, if you will. Those particular capacities could accommodate 1,600 students, and so that this building would only need to be added on to classroom facilities as opposed to boilers and heating and lighting and things such as that.
Now, you've already explained that any option to build a 10-12 high school would, in our opinion, require an additional elementary school. And so option B requires a 14th elementary school, just as option A does.
That is correct. And the cost of that would be $42,285,300. I hasten to say our best estimate at this time would be $11 million for a new elementary school.
Would be an add-on of $11 million above the $42,285,000.
Correct. And the same way in the first estimate, which was over $30 million, one would really need to add on another $11 million, in my judgment, to get an accurate representation. That does not mean it would be $11 million if the board, again I'm repeating, if the board of directors decides to raise class size, or decides to modify the curriculum program, or decides, in addition to those two options, also put on modulars. That's another option which would be less expensive. It's a less expensive option, but it's one that I think should be considered long and hard as to whether or not we want to change what we represent here in North Penn as a quality school district. We've got to come to grips as to whether or not we want to talk about the cost of things or whether we want to talk about the value of things. I think we've got to also understand that the value of something is very important, as well as the cost.
Originally, we were talking about opening a new school or an expanded North Penn High School in September of 1998. Now I see that we're talking about September of 1999 for each of these options. So it would appear that we have pushed our window of opportunity to its maximum, and we are now really talking about September of '99 for every one of the options.
Every one of the options with perhaps option B.
Okay.
Because, and the reason I say that this board, as you had said at the outset, the board had decided to vote on this option and agreed 8-1 on this option in 1993. And preliminary work, including an Act 34 hearing, was held. A consequence of that, it is my opinion, and solely my opinion, not the opinion of the architects or anyone else, but I would think that if option B were chosen, it's a possibility that that could be opened in September of 1998. Again, that's an opinion of mine. The architect and Mr. Art Wood and other members of the community who are more learned in this than I may disagree with that.
Option C calls for us to build a high school on the Keenest Road site in Montgomery Township for students in grades 9 through 12. Now, we've only been talking in this program about a high school for 10 through 12. At this point in our discussion, we shift and we begin to speak about 9 through 12. What else would you tell us about option C?
Well, option C, D, and E, for that matter, all are predicated on a change of enrollment pattern. By that I mean, currently we have a kindergarten through 6, and we have a 7, 8, 9, actually we have a 7, 8, and a 9, which are scheduled following year in 1996 to go to a 7, 8, 9. Now it's a 7, 8, and a 9. And we have a 10, 11, and 12. The reason we discussed very thoroughly the option of K to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 through 12 is that it's, in our professional opinion, a representation of configuration which lends itself to the best educational particular programs that we could address. It also lends itself towards more flexibility in the future for growth in this school district. It also lends itself towards the possibility of not building a 14th elementary school, which is a decided cost savings too. There are many other reasons, I should say, that we could talk about K to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 through 12, but perhaps that's a topic for a future date. Anyway, option 3, with that cost, we would estimate would be $45,990,393, but that would eliminate the need for a 14th elementary school of $11 million. So if one adds $11 million onto the cost of a 12 of $42 million, you can see that we're talking actually of a savings. I should say this, though. If we went to an expanded high school in option A, perhaps those people who are looking for this as an option might suggest that we sell the land that we've purchased for $6.2 million on Keenest Road, and that would offset the cost and not have a need for a second high school. So that's another consideration. If people are looking at costs, that's a possibility. If I may, I'll go on to option D and E, if that's all right with you. Option D would be a new high school on Keenest Road, 9 to 12. It would have a 1,600 student capacity with a core facilities for 2,000, which means that similar to option 3, it could then grow into a larger high school. It would be $50,743,441. Option 5, or I should say option E, number 5, is a 9 to 12 high school on Keenest Road site with 2,000 students and a core facility for 2,000, so that we would think in terms of a cost of $54,910,246. All of these obviously cost a lot of money. There isn't any doubt that this is costly. But unfortunately, or fortunately, We are in a growth pattern in our school district. That is, we have people moving in and continue to move in, and the students that are now here need to be educated. We don't expect them to leave. We do expect them to be part and parcel of our responsibility, at least for the next 12 years.
I think our viewers might find it a bit confusing that we sometimes speak about a second high school on Keenest Road for 1,200 students, expandable to 1,600. In another option, we speak about a school on Keenest Road for 1,600. And then in option E, we were speaking about a school on Keenest Road for 2,000. Do our projections, if we agree upon our projections, do our projections require that we might have the need for a 2,000 student school in grades 9 through 12?
Yes, Ken, they do. If we think in terms of the fact that we do not wish to place this school district upwards of 27, 28, and 2,900 students, then in 9, 11, and 12, then we would need to think in terms of having another high school of about 2,000, so that we would have about 2,400 max here and 2,000 or 2,100 here, of almost comparable size. One of the questions that's always been asked, it seems to me, is can we in North Penn run a two high school situation that provides equal opportunity, educational opportunity for both sites? And I say an unequivocal yes. We can do that. We will have the number of students. As a matter of fact, even at 1,600 students, we will not have a school district having a larger size than that in Montgomery County. And I hasten to say that Upper Marion, Lower Marion, Abington, Cheltenham, Hatboro, Horsham, or go to another county, CB East or CB West, I hasten to say that they would like to think that they offer a quality educational program, which they do.
Surely.
And their size of their student body are anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200.
We've heard criticism of the projections from the Pennsylvania Economy League, and we've heard concern about those projections. Now, your tenure as a successful and a superintendent that's always enjoyed a good reputation, your experience with the Pennsylvania Economy League is such that you have reason to respect their projections?
I have reason to respect those projections. I think it's a competent organization. However, being from Pennsylvania German and coming through Missouri, I always like to re-examine things. So I asked another Pennsylvania German, Dr. Fike, who has a master's degree in mathematics and has over 20 years experience as a superintendent, if he would look at these projections and come up with his own study. His own study did in fact increase slightly the mid-range of PEL. But he had numerous conversations with Mr. Koch of PEL, who did the study, and PEL openly admits that their particular projections were very conservative, and they did them as such. I know that no matter when we go beyond 10 years, or even up to 10 years, trying to make a prediction when births have not occurred is very, very difficult, if not impossible. But these are projections. The projections I look for are those that the fact that the children are now here. They exist, they're born, and they exist in this school district. I think these are reasonable, and I think they are conservative estimates, because we do not even take into account that building is occurring in this school district. That in fact, because of building, we find for every home, we get about 0.75 of a student. And I be facetious, they're not cutting 3/4, but on an average, using mathematics, that's what we project for every household. So with 800 homes just coming into Montgomery Township alone, we can actually feel that 600 just from that area alone, 600 students from that area alone, should be a conservative estimate. Now, we're not taking into account the other townships and other boroughs either, but Nonetheless, I feel very confident that these projections for the next 5 years are accurate and conservative. Beyond 5 years, naturally, we can't predict what type of births will occur, but we certainly can predict that we're going to get children into this school system on the basis of new homes being built.
You've had much success working with school districts and school boards when difficult decisions were required. Certainly our school board faces the difficult decision knowing that there's a mixed opinion in the community, knowing that there's mixed opinion on the board about the direction we should go with the expansion of the present high school or the building of a second high school. Do you have any advice for the board members that might be listening? Do you have advice for the 9 North Penn board members as they work to face this decision?
I think my advice to them is if they would follow not a position of what I call psychosclerosis, which is a hardening of the mind, but to keep an open mind. Some people make a decision, and that decision could have been made 3 or 4 years ago, and no facts will change that decision. And I think that's sad. I really do. I really believe that a board member has the obligation to keep an open mind and to try to decide what is in the best interest of the children of this school district whom they're educating. I fully realize that debt is important, and we can't overestimate the importance of the money and the economics, and I understand that. But our obligation has to be following the Thomas Jefferson, the Jeffersonian principles which have made this country strong. We must have a strong public education system. I don't in any way want to denigrate, demean, or take away the importance of a private education, which I thoroughly believe in also. Those options are there. But we must deal, public school board members must deal with public school questions, and they cannot be confused, and they can't obfuscate their particular position by taking options that might be presented to them, such as school choice or vouchers or private schools or anything else. Those are important considerations, but their fundamental charge, if they're elected to this Board of School Directors, and when they are elected, is to provide a thorough and efficient education for all public school attendees. And I charge them to make sure they fulfill that obligation. I hate to be perhaps crude in my remarks, but I'm going to say it anyway. No one held a gun to their head to run. No one is holding a gun to their head to stay. These are difficult times. These are difficult decisions, but they must be made. They can't abdicate those responsibilities. They must fulfill the charge of their office, and that's tough. Those are difficult decisions. These people work hard. They're to be admired. They're not to be castigated or defamed at school board meetings. Nor do I think that they should strive to find the differences between themselves, either philosophically or otherwise. But they should strive to find on what common ground can we agree. What is in the best interest of our children? What's in the best economic interest of this school district? This school district, as all school districts, are going to be founded on a sound public educational foundation. If we allow that public educational foundation to erode, we are defeating the main reason why we exist, which is a democracy. We are defeating our form of government. We cannot afford to let that happen. I hope that the voters out there will keep that in mind, because this is a crucial juncture. Are we going to settle for a fine, outstanding school district that we now have, or are we going to try to rise to the highest level of mediocrity? That's a decision people need to make, and the voters need to make that decision. I'm not here for any other reason except to try to make North Penn even a better school district than I found it. And believe me, you have a fine school district. And while I'm saying that, although we're talking about this important question this evening, I need to say to you very quickly that the real problem of this school district is settlement of that teacher's contract. That must be done. And that must be done, in my judgment, before we elect a new superintendent of schools to this district. He or she has got to come into a school district that has made the tough decisions before they get there, so that they're not using all that energy and time chasing one's tail to try to make these decisions. I need to close with this one comment. I mean, you asked me the time and I'm telling you how to build a watch, but nonetheless, I can understand the importance of making a decision about a high school as whether or not there should be one high school and two. I went through that when I was at Deerhoff High School and Allentown High School. I taught at Allentown High School when they decided to build Deerhoff High School. It's a very difficult decision. It's a very emotional decision. I understand that. But the decision is not whether or not we should have one marching band, or whether we should have one swimming team, or whether we should have one alma mater. The decision has to be predicated on what is in the best interest for these children, for these students, and not for only now, but the future. And if the board members vote with that in mind, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Thank you, Dr. Persing. You gave us a good, strong summary, and it's a pleasure to be here working with you. And this has been Superintendent Spotlight. I'm Ken Weir, speaking for the North Penn Schools. Thank you.
Concentrate on the prep game. The town is up the hill if I play it.
I know I can make a fortune, but where can I have the game?
You can have the game at the North Penn High School auditorium.
May 4th, 5th, and 6th.
With a curtain time of 7:30. And tickets are still available in the main office by calling 368-9800. Guys and dolls, be there.
If you took away a star for every 1 million people who didn't vote, and a stripe for every 5 million non-voters, and a patch of blue for the 10 million people who didn't care, exactly what kind of flag are we waving?
Every time we say goodbye, I die a little. Every time we say goodbye, I wonder why a little.
Goodbyes are never easy, but none are as painful as saying goodbye forever. So please help one more person live this year by giving blood just one more time. After all, that one person could be someone you never want to part with.
They allow you to go.